Imagine being crowned the next Spielberg at just 32 years old. Sounds like a dream, right? But for M. Night Shyamalan, it turned into a curse that's haunted his career for decades. After The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, he was Hollywood's golden child. But then, his movies became some of the most divisive of our time. What happened? Did the critics just not get it? Or did Shyamalan's own vision become his worst enemy? Today, we dive into the mind of one of the boldest, and most controversial, filmmakers of our generation. Stay with us as we uncover Shyamalan's surprising theory on why critics might always hate his movies. What's the worst thing that can happen to a filmmaker at the peak of their career? For M. Night Shyamalan, it was the August 5, 2002, cover of Newsweek magazine. Right there, plastered in bold letters, he was hailed as the next Steven Spielberg. At 32, after the back-to-back hits of The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs, it seemed Hollywood had crowned its new king. But that cover? It became a curse that still follows him today. Fast forward a few years, and the once untouchable filmmaker was facing his harshest critics. After The Village, critics were scratching their heads. And when Lady in the Water came out, with Shyamalan himself as a writer who saves the world, let's just say he didn't make many new friends in the critics' circle. These movies, for all their flaws or genius, were undeniably his. Shyamalan had creative control, bringing unique, unapologetic visions to the screen. He'll admit some flops were his fault. The Last Airbender and After Earth, Shyamalan describes these as hired gun projects, movies where he didn't have that same creative spark. Yet, after these missteps, he found his footing again with The Visit and Split. Despite his ups and downs, Shyamalan believes his storytelling style is just too different for critics to fully understand. And here's where it gets interesting, he compares his work to jazz. The Village, Lady in the Water, even The Happening aren't mainstream songs, they're Shyamalan's experimental, sometimes jarring riffs. Maybe the critics just weren't ready to hear that tune. But here's something deeper. Shyamalan recently revealed that he feels his background as an Indian American might make his stories harder for people to connect with. In his words, if he were making movies about Indian mathematicians, critics might give him the benefit of the doubt. He's telling universal stories, but sometimes feels boxed in by an industry that's more comfortable with certain narratives from minority creators. Now, think about this, when we watch Spielberg, Scorsese, or Tarantino, we're not seeing them as symbols of their background. And maybe that's what Shyamalan wants. A space where his work is just his work, free from cultural expectations. So, what's next for Shyamalan? Despite mixed reviews, he's as driven as ever, with a new first-look deal at Warner Brothers. This director might not be for everyone, but as long as he keeps making movies that divide audiences, he's making movies that matter. Shyamalan may be critic-proof, but he's never lost sight of his craft. To the audiences who keep showing up, he's still one of the boldest voices in cinema. So, what do you think? Is Shyamalan just too different for the critics, or has he become his own worst critic? Let us know in the comments below.